Welcome to the fifth and final Mood Reboot webinar, which is a free webinar series that we've been hosting, designed to uplift and encourage us during these very interesting times. If you've missed the previous Mood Reboot series, they're available on our YouTube or Facebook pages, and so that's just at St. Nicholas Montessori College, Ireland. So that's at St. Nicholas MCI. Tonight, joining us, we have Jennifer Brush, a leading expert in the field of Montessori education for dementia and aging. Jennifer's own work has been highly recognized globally, and more recently, she's become part of our team at St. Nicholas as the program director for Montessori Education for Dementia program and workshop. This evening, Jennifer will discuss maintaining cognitive functioning, and afterwards, we will hold a live Q&A session, so do stay tuned. If you have any questions during as she's speaking, please just feel free to send them to me via chat. Otherwise, just wait until the end and you can turn on your microphone and video. We can have a real nice chat then. So without further ado, Jennifer, I would like to kick it off to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everybody. And Jennifer, take it away.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Brush. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to have you here tonight. I'm going to talk tonight about ways that we can maintain our cognitive health and prevent decline as we age. I am a speech-language pathologist by training. I've been a researcher in the area of dementia for many years now. I've had several large grants funded by the National Institutes of Health in the United States. And my research focuses on how we can create supportive physical environments for people as they age and people with dementia. So I'm going to share tonight some of the things that you can do now. People, actually, it's never too late to change your lifestyle or to do things to protect your cognitive health. But they're all things that we should be doing now at any age, and certainly things that people who have cognitive impairment can do to help maintain their skills. So if you bear with me just for one moment, I'm going to take care of what I need to do to share my screen, and we'll be able to get started. And I'm happy to take questions at the end. You can either send them to Mackenzie in the chat or just unmute yourself at the end of the talk and we can take some questions. So as Mackenzie mentioned, I'm the program director for Montessori Education for Dementia here at St. Nicholas. And at the end of my presentation, I'll be sharing a little bit about what my role is and this special, very unique program that we have at the college. So I'm fascinated by the brain. There's so much to learn about the brain. It's such an amazing thing. It's constantly generating new cells. It's constantly rewiring itself. And there's a very, very dramatic growth that takes place in early childhood. I've heard it compared, if you look at the growth of the brain in the first year, it develops so much. It would be, if you compare that to how much someone's physical weight would be, it would be like a child, an infant gaining 24 pounds in its first year. It's just amazing what happens in the brain. And every time we have a thought, it is its own physical pathway in the brain. And we have about 70,000 different thoughts a day. So just imagine what's going in our brain all day long. And we have a thought after a thought after a thought, right? We're always thinking up new things. So every single one is its own pathway. And the pathways make networks and connect to other pathways. We have neurons in our brain, and they send messages, chemical and electrical messages to each other. And to be able to stay healthy, our neurons have to be able to communicate with one another. they have to be able to carry out metabolic activity, and they have to be able to repair themselves. And Alzheimer's disease is a process that unfortunately disrupts all three of these very essential jobs and causes nerve cell death. So we'll be talking just for a little while a bit about what happens in the brain when you have cognitive impairment, and then what you can do to stay healthy throughout your life. If you think about our brain, it weighs about 3 pounds. Think of a medium head of cauliflower, okay, with 100 billion neurons and 100 trillion synapses. It's a very, very complicated system. And it's responsible for us doing things very automatically that we don't even think about. The cerebellum is part of our brain that receives information from all of our senses. It consists of 2 hemispheres, and it's responsible for our body's movement. It receives information from the eyes, the ears, the muscles, the joints, and it's responsible for our balance and our coordination. Other important areas that we have in the brain, the hippocampus, that's where our short-term memories are converted to long-term memories. It's also one of the very first parts of the brain that's impacted by Alzheimer's disease. So this is why people have trouble learning new information or retaining information, right, that they've just been exposed to. The hippocampus actually begins to shrink as we age naturally, and that's why we may forget where we put our keys, maybe forget someone's name that we met at a party. These are very common things. They're not things to be worried about. If we forget something, if we misplace something, usually we can retrace our steps and find it again. Someone with dementia may not be aware that they've forgotten something, or they may not be able to retrace their steps and find something again. Another important area of the brain is the thalamus that receives sensory and limbic information, and it sends it to the cerebral cortex. The hypothalamus, which monitors activities and controls our body's internal clock. So this is where our circadian rhythms are, and this is also an area that's impacted pretty early on in Alzheimer's disease. If you've ever had experience with someone who has Alzheimer's disease, sometimes their sleep patterns are disrupted. They may be awake during the evening and sleeping during the day. And that's because their body's internal clock is disrupted from that disease process. A great way to keep your hypothalamus healthy, keep your body's internal clock set, is to spend time outside. It's good to spend at least a half an hour in the sun as many days a week as possible. Certainly, depending on the weather, that's not always ideal, but spending time outside is important. That sunlight helps us to absorb vitamin D, which is critical. And then the limbic system is another important area. This controls our emotions and our instinctive behaviors. The brain uses a pretty decent amount of the blood for our body. About 20% of the blood flowing from the heart is pumped to our brain. When people think about cognitive decline, sometimes they aren't sure what's normal aging and what's not normal aging. So memory loss that impacts your daily life is not a part of normal aging. Okay? Frequent forgetting things, having difficulty problem solving or doing complex things, planning, that's definitely not a normal part of aging. Normally, older adults may not be able to do several things at once. Okay? They will tell you, I really need to focus on one thing at a time. Okay? That's a normal part of aging. An older adult may be more distractible, They may have trouble filtering out irrelevant stimuli in the environment. So a healthy older person would tell you, not only do I need to focus on one thing at a time, I have trouble focusing if there's a lot going on in the environment. Okay. If you think back to a teenager, they might do their homework laying on the bed in a position that seems very uncomfortable while the music is going on and there's other things going on in the environment, and they're able to tune those things out. As we age, it becomes more difficult, and that's really normal. That's nothing that you need to worry about. Alzheimer's disease, on the other hand, affects somebody's ability to focus consistently. It affects people's ability to learn information consistently. And one thing that we see in the brain of someone with Alzheimer's disease is an abundance of beta amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. So if you think about two nerve cells, they're going to communicate with one another through an area called the synapse, and they're going to send electrical and chemical messages to one another. We all have plaque that builds up in our brain, and when we sleep, our brain repairs itself. There's chemicals in the brain. You can think of it very simplistically as a Pac-Man going around and eating up the plaque that's forming in our brain. So this happens as a normal process in a healthy brain. That's not going to happen in a brain that has Alzheimer's disease. These plaques are going to stay and form dense deposits of protein around the nerve cells at the level of the synapse, and it makes it really difficult for the cells to communicate with one another. And when they can't communicate with one another, they die. So at the beginning, I started and I said cells have to be able to talk to each other, they have to be able to repair themselves, and they have to be able to carry out metabolic activity. So when these plaques form, it makes it very difficult for that to happen. There's also a protein in the nerve cells that becomes unstable, and the structure of the nerve cell collapses, and there are twisted fibers that result that build up inside the nerve cell. This also causes nerve cell death. So that's a very simplistic description of what's happening in the brain. And the nerve cells die all throughout the brain, and over time, it causes the brain to shrink and people lose functioning. Okay. So if you look at these PET scans, the brain on the left is a healthy brain, and that red and yellow is metabolic activity. So there's lots of healthy metabolic activity in that brain. In the brain on the right, this is a brain with Alzheimer's disease. Definitely, you're not seeing all of that healthy activity. And they still don't know what's causing Alzheimer's disease to begin, but we understand so much more now about what happens in the brain once it takes hold. Now, the good news is that there are things that we can do that can help reduce the risk of cognitive decline. And so we're going to talk about those. We'll talk about each one of these things today. And if you can lead a healthy lifestyle, there's a lot that you can do. So first of all, having a positive outlook, thinking in a positive way. The research shows that older adults who really believe in themselves, who feel that they can tackle problems, that they are good problem solvers, that they can do things, they believe in themselves, are less likely to develop cognitive decline. And if you think about it, if we're having 70,000 thoughts all day, and those things are negative thoughts, think about how that is impacting our mood and our physical body also. So when we're under stress, right, that stress manifests itself in physical decline over time. So the more that you can have a positive outlook in your life, the better off you are. And there are things that you can do to start really small. I mean, think about having a gratitude journal, and writing every day about what you're thankful for. Or I have a gratitude jar in our kitchen, and there's a notepad of paper, and at any time, anyone in the family can just write something that they're thankful for and stick it in the jar. Okay? You can just start your day by saying thank you. Okay? Or decide that throughout the day you're going to look for things that you enjoy, that you're going to look for things that make you feel good. In our busy lives, it's nice if we can slow down and really take the opportunity to appreciate what we have, and also to do something for ourselves, even if it's taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes for ourselves every day. That is a gift that we give ourselves. I have a meditation buddy, and she and I call each other at 7:45 every morning once we're up and we've walked our dogs and we've had our breakfast, and we sit and meditate for 15 minutes before we go into our offices. And it's just a great way to start the day in a positive, centered way. So feeling good, having positive thoughts really does contribute to our cognitive health. Learning new things helps develop new neural pathways in our brain. It helps us to strengthen existing neural pathways. It helps the brain to grow. So learning new games, taking a class, teaching a game to someone else, right? Going to museums when we're able to, traveling when we're able to, playing sports, starting a new hobby, anything that you're challenging yourself, and make it fun. I'm left-handed. I'm very left-handed. It's almost impossible for me to do anything with my right hand. Switch hands. Do something with your right hand instead of your left hand today. Looking for ways to challenge yourself, in a fun. I'm sorry for the noise. I'm getting a delivery and my dog's letting me know about it. So the challenges of working from home. So look for ways to do something that's different. You might want to get a recipe book, at a bookstore, out of the library, and cook some new recipes. Ask a friend to teach you something they enjoy and teach them something that you enjoy. Learning new things really does make a difference. Eating well makes a difference too, and we found that people who eat a Mediterranean diet are less likely to develop cognitive impairment. And so a Mediterranean diet is mostly plant-based foods. So fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts. Think about replacing butter with more healthy fats like olive oil. Really reduce your salt intake, because that can cause high blood pressure, and high blood pressure is not good for the brain. So using herbs and spices instead. Limit your intake of red meat to no more than just a few times a month if possible, and focus instead on fish and poultry. Those oily, fatty fishes, like salmon, are just super for your brain. And drinking red wine in moderation has been found to be good for the brain as well. So if you think about the foods that they say are kind of brain foods, definitely lots of water. We need to drink all throughout the day. Whole grains, nuts, anything with antioxidants in it. So citrus fruits, dark leafy greens, chocolate. So I'm glad chocolate and wine are on the list. Happy about that. Tea, beans, sweet potatoes is a super nutritious snack. It's great for lunch. It's great for your brain. It's great for your body. Turmeric is a natural anti-inflammatory. And anti-inflammatories are good. Natural anti-inflammatories are good for your brain too. You notice there's not a lot of sugar on this list, okay? Sugar is not a really good thing for your brain. Diabetes is a big risk factor. People with diabetes are more likely to develop cognitive impairment. You really want to try and cut down on the sugar and focus on whole grains. And if you're going to have sugar in your diet, then that's coming from fruit. And you're, certainly monitoring that intake. All right, sleep. Sleep sometimes is hard to get in our busy lives, and it's so important for our brain. So there's a couple reasons why sleep is important. First, our brain repairs itself when we sleep. Okay. Second of all, when we sleep, our hippocampus plays through everything that it's been exposed to for the day, and it makes decisions about what we're going to get rid of and not remember anymore, and what is going to be retained and therefore basically moved to the cerebral cortex for storage for access at a later time. And so this happens when we're sleeping. If we are going to retain information, if we're going to be able to learn information, you have to have sleep. It's critical. Our brain synthesizes a new protein when information is basically shunted from our short-term memory system to our long-term memory system. This happens when we sleep. Okay. So we have to be able to sleep. Those of you that are students, staying up all night and pulling those all-nighters before an exam is the worst thing that you can do. The best way to learn information is to be exposed in just small chunks all throughout the day. So instead of studying the same information over and over for an hour, it's actually better if you can study for 15 minutes now, and 15 minutes in an hour, and for 15 minutes in 2 hours, and for 15 minutes 4 hours later, that you gradually expand the amount of time in between practices when you're trying to learn new information, and you learn and you study in smaller chunks. We actually teach people with memory impairment and Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia how to learn and retain new information by a memory intervention that actually practices information over spaced out intervals like that. So we need sleep also. We need sleep for learning, to repair our brain, and for our mood, our judgment, and our perception of what's going on in the world. You know how you feel when you don't get a good night's sleep. It's difficult to make decisions, to be motivated. We're not at our best. And so we need to sleep 7 to 8 hours a day. And it's best for your body if you can go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Even on the weekends, if you can keep that same routine, you're going to sleep better. You're going to have a better quality of sleep. It's going to be better for your body. Okay. That hour before bed, if you're going to have the very best sleep, should be quiet, non-screen time. You should try and minimize any alcoholic drinks before you go to bed, nicotine, any caffeine. Use relaxation techniques. You can use meditation or guided imagery, or listen to quiet music before you go to sleep. Try to spend time outside every day to help your body reset its natural circadian rhythm. All right, this is the biggest thing that you can do for your brain. The number one biggest thing is exercise, exercise, exercise. It helps us grow new brain cells. It helps our brain cells adapt. When we exercise, we get this surge of neurotransmitters. Okay? It shields us from stress and depression. It helps our lungs. Anything that's good for our lungs helps our heart and our brain, right? When we help our lungs and our heart, we oxygenate our brain. Okay? Exercise has been shown to boost creativity and certainly to prevent muscle decay. And what's really interesting is the studies that have been done on exercise, and there are numerous studies that have looked at exercise and people who have Alzheimer's disease already. People who exercise, aerobic exercise, on a regular basis, which is 3 to 5 times a week for a half an hour, who have dementia already, maintain their skills longer than people who don't. So it's never too late to start an exercise program. Even if someone has cognitive impairment and they have never exercised before, they really need to start exercising. And it needs to be aerobic exercise. You got to get your heart rate going. So if you haven't exercised, talk to your doctor, talk to an exercise physiologist, a physical therapist, to get an exercise program together. I think it's great to exercise with a buddy. It holds you more accountable. You're less likely to ignore it for the evening. If you have a dog, that's a great way to get exercise. My dog and I walk several miles every single day. Get into a routine of the type of exercise you like, and you can vary it. So try weight training a few days a week. Start with really lightweight. Start with 2 cans. There are so many exercise programs online. I know it's really hard right now to get to gyms, but there's lots of exercise programs that are free online. Okay, you can certainly walk. Getting out there and walk helps. When you're able to, swimming is a wonderful form of exercise. So I encourage all of you, really, if there is nothing else that you do to take care of your brain every single day, it would be to exercise. You know, we think of taking care of our bodies a lot, but nobody ever thinks about, I'm going to do this to take care of my brain. And exercise can help you learn better. It can help reduce stress. It can help reduce depression. It's the best medicine for your body. And then when we think about stress and depression, another great preventative is play. Okay? We need to play. We need to be able to relax and just have fun. Okay? I love this quote, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And it's best if you can play with other people. The research shows that older adults who have strong social connections are less likely to develop cognitive impairment. So really doing things with other people. Think about what brings you joy, what brings you peace, what's really important to you, and build those things into your day. So as I just mentioned, people who have strong connections, social connections, are less likely to develop cognitive decline. And that's been so hard for everybody this year, right? We haven't been able to see people on a regular basis. And although technology is wonderful and it allows us to connect, I'm connecting with you right now from the United States. It's wonderful that we can do this, but being face to face right next to somebody, it's just, that's hard to replace. So taking advantage of any opportunities that you do have to connect with other people, and especially if you can do things that then are engaging your mental processes. Sign up for a class with a friend, exercise with a friend, do a sport with a friend. All of those things can really boost your levels of cognition. Okay, so we have some more opportunities to learn more about the brain and cognitive health, and also about Montessori. What I do is use the Montessori philosophy that was created by Dr. Montessori, and combine it with what the research says is best practices for people with dementia. And I teach a program that helps professionals, educators, family members to really help older adults with dementia engage in life in a very meaningful way, to be able to maintain their skills for as long as possible. So we have a great program at St. Nicholas that's 6 months, and it is what we call a blended learning program. So we have live online lectures 2 days a week. We have self-paced online learning that you can access through an online class portal. And then we have classroom-based workshops that I teach on campus at St. Nicholas in Dunleary, 3 workshops during the 6 months, one at the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end, and they're on Fridays and Saturdays. And then we have practical Montessori demonstrations with opportunities for practice. And then we have inquiry-based learning and case studies to help you apply what you've learned. And we do this through 4 different modules that I teach with other faculty at the college. So we have a 6-week Montessori Education across the lifespan module, and that runs concurrently with a 6-week psychology module where we study attention, learning, and memory. And then when those 2 modules are complete, we have a short break, and then I teach 2 concurring modules, one on aging and dementia, and then one on practical application of Montessori for dementia. So we learn about all the different disease processes that cause dementia, how to assess it, how to plan for the future, how to work with someone who's experiencing dementia, how to support them to be as independent as possible. We learn all about the Montessori philosophy and how it can be applied to people at any age to really help them live the best life possible. And then we also study how people learn and how memory works. So it's really, we cover a lot of different topics, and this is what the timetable looks like. So we are in our spring semester right now, and we are just finishing up module 1 and 2. We kicked it off with a 3-day workshop this year just because I couldn't get to campus, and we decided to split up the class over 3 days instead of 2 days, and I taught it online. But typically it's 2 days. So we had module 1 and 2 that ran together. We're starting this weekend our 2-day workshop, and then we'll start modules 3 and 4. Module 4 is slightly longer because the students work on case studies and they apply what they've learned. And then we end with a 2-day workshop. So our next semester will start in October, and we'll start on October 8th and 9th with a 2-day introduction to Montessori for aging and dementia. And what's really nice about that is that we invite people just to come and take that workshop. So if you're not sure that you want to sign up for the whole program and you'd like to learn more, you can take the 2-day workshop with me in person in Dunleary and learn about Montessori for aging and dementia. And then if you're interested either that semester or another semester, you could sign up for our full class or just take the workshop with us. So this is what a typical week looks like if you're taking our certificate program. You go to class for an hour on Mondays for Montessori, a class for an hour on Tuesdays for psychology for 6 weeks. And then we have independent learning. There's videos, articles to read, things that you can do at your own pace. 3 times during the 6 months, we have our 2-day workshop. And then it starts again for the 2 modules that I teach on aging and dementia and Montessori. So we have online classes that we use Moodle, and all the students have a email that they receive from the college, an email account for accessing Moodle and communicating with the teachers. And every class, every week follows the same structure. So we frame and introduce the lesson, and then we provide a variety of content through lecture, through video, and through reading material. There's some kind of learner activity or project or interaction each week that's very simple and easy to do. And then we have a lot of interactive discussion that's both text-based through our online class, but also all together during class. The classes, although we're delivering content and lecture, there's lots of opportunity for interaction and discussion about the material. And then this is the reading that we require for the class. It's Montessori for Elder and Dementia Care. And even if you're not joining the class and you'd just like to have an introduction to what Montessori is for older adults, you can purchase this book on our website. So if you go to our website, this is the address. Also, if you go to the Montessori for Dementia page, down on the bottom of the page, there's a link to be able to buy the book, and St. Nicholas will mail it to you. So some resources here. If you have questions and you'd like to learn more, we're happy to talk to you. My email address is jennifer.brush@smsi.ie, or you can contact our program manager, Breed. Her email address is here, or Mackenzie's email address is listed here as well.